Hello viewers, today we will discuss the age structure in the developed and developing countries. The age structure of a population refers to the number of people in different age groups. The changes in the population age structure have important implications for the economies of all countries, irrespective of their level of development. The age structure is a component of population composition. It has its own direct implications for public policy and for future development of the society. The words age structure and age composition are used interchangeably since both of them show the proportion of population in different age groups. The proportions of children and older persons have much to do with the balance of national expenditures on schools, childcare, immunization and reproductive health as against expenditures on old age social security systems and healthcare for the chronic and degenerative disease. The ratio of the population aged 65 and over to the working age population is a fundamental consideration in the design of public pension arrangements, and the ratio has its micro-level expression in the age structure of the family. The diagram 1 shows a population pyramid. The population is shown on the x-axis and the cohorts are shown on the y-axis. Population pyramids and types. It has already been discussed that age structure of a population is the distribution of people among various ages. The next question arises as to how to study it. The answer to this is population pyramids. These show pictorially the population of an area or country in terms of its composition by age and sex at a point in time. The series of horizontal bars in a pyramid represent the percentage contribution of each age and sex group, mostly a 5 years age group interval in the population. A glance at this pyramid can tell a great deal about population. One can easily see whether a population is young or old. By convention, males are shown on the left and females on the right of the pyramid. The young persons are depicted at the bottom and the elderly at the top. The ratio or percentage of various age groups in a population determines the current reproductive status of the population and indicate what may be expected in the future. Age structure diagrams can be of different types, thereby reflecting various age and sex characteristics of population. Expansive population pyramid, pyramid with a broad base. This kind of pyramid indicates a high percentage of young population and rapid population growth. These are also called expansive population pyramids, which depict larger numbers or percentage of the population in the younger age groups, usually with each group larger in size or proportion than the one before it. A bell-shaped polygon. This indicates a moderate proportion of young to old population and slow population growth. Rectangular polygon. In more developed nations, high survivorship and low mortality produce populations with an almost rectangular, stable age structure in which all groups are equally abundant. It shows case of zero population growth and is characterized by bars of equal length. An urn-shaped figure. This type of shape indicates a low percentage of young population, which is characteristic of a declining population. It exhibits negative population growth. Diagram 2 shows 4 representations of population age structure and provide an overall example of what a pyramid for different levels of population growth would look like. rapid growth, slow growth, zero growth and negative growth. The rapid growth pyramid has a broader base, tapering upwards and becoming extremely narrow. The bell-shaped pyramid depicts slow growth. Zero growth is shown through a rectangular polygon and urn-shaped pyramid shows negative growth. World age structure changes in young and adolescent population. The number of young people aged 15 to 24 years has grown rapidly in recent decades. Currently, 1.2 billion people in this age group represent around a sixth of the world's total population. The population aged 15 to 24 is still increasing rapidly in Africa, whereas it is declining or is projected to decline in all other major areas. The adolescents in 2014 are healthier and more likely to attend school, postpone entry into labor force and delay marriage and childbearing. However, there are growing disparities among adolescents and youth both within and across countries regarding the timing and sequencing of transition to adulthood. Since 1990, all major areas have experienced declines in the proportion of adolescents who are married or in a union, with exception of Latin America and Caribbean, where the prevalence of early marriage and union formation has remained virtually unchanged over the past 2 decades. The table 1 shows that age distribution for more developed regions has shown a decline in the proportion of children and youth between 1950 and 2005, while proportion above 60 has increased. The table 2 shows that there has been decline in the proportion of children between 1950 and 2005, while the proportion above 60 has increased between the same time for the less developed regions. Change in elderly population. Population aging is the phenomena by which older people become proportionally larger share of the total population and is inevitable when people live longer and choose to have fewer children. Not surprisingly, therefore, patterns of declining fertility and mortality over past 2 decades have led to significant shifts in the age structure of the world's population. Although most advanced in Europe and North America, population aging will soon begin in all major areas of the world. Globally, the share of older people aged 64 years or older increased from 9% in 1994 to 12% in 2014 and is expected to reach 21% by 2050. The table 3 shows the changing patterns of old population aged 60 years across the years given. For the world, this proportion has risen from 8.1 to 10 between 1950 and 2000. For the less developed regions, it increased from 6.4 to 7.7 during the same period. For the least developed regions, this percentage declined from 5.4 to 4.9 across the 2 time periods. Changes in median age. Increases in median age are indicative of population aging. In 2013, 30 countries or areas had a median age higher than 40 years. By 2050, close to 100 countries expected to have a median age above 40 years. The diagram 3 shows the median age for different regions. In 2010, Europe was the only region with median age of 40. It is projected to age up to 46 in 2050. Africa's median age is likely to rise by 2050. Latin America and Asia are expected to experience double-digit increases in their median ages. North America may add up the least by 2050. Changes in the working age population. Trends in the number of persons of working age 15 to 59 years are particularly important for all countries. The different regions of the world show different patterns of change in the working population. In most of the regions of the world, the proportion of working age population is expected to decline in future. However, in the least developed countries, the proportion is expected to rise in 2050, which represents both an opportunity and challenge for such nations. Changes in the total dependency ratio. A related measure of dependency and potential social support needs is the total dependency ratio, defined as the ratio of the sum of the population aged 0 to 14 and population aged 65 and over to population aged 15 to 64 per 100. At the world level, the total dependency ratio is not projected to change significantly between 2005 and 2050, increasing only from 55.1 to 57.1. This weak trend, however, is the product of distinct and compensating changes in different regions and areas. The table 4 shows that overall dependency ratio for the less developed regions in 1950 at 79 dependents per 100 persons aged 15 to 59 was high compared to that of more developed regions at that time. By 2005, the overall dependency ratio in less developed regions stood at 64 and that of more developed regions was 59. Age structure for the developing regions. Currently, the population of the less developed regions is still young, with children under age 15 accounting for 28% of the population and young persons aged 15 to 24 accounting for a further 18%. The number of people in main working ages from 25 to 59 years is high in less developed regions, that is 2.6 billion, and expected to continue rising, reaching 3.7 billion in 2050. In less developed regions, the population aged 60 or over is currently increasing at the pace of 3.7% annually in period 2010-2015 and projected to increase by 2.9% annually before 2050 and 0.9% annually from 2050 to 2100. Its numbers are expected to rise from 554 million in 2013 to 1.6 billion in 2050. The developing regions have witnessed a rising share of working age population from 1995 onwards. The rise in working age population can be seen as a window of opportunity for capturing the demographic dividend. In 2050, 89 countries are projected to have a median age above 40 years and about half of them will be from the less developed regions. 66% of the world's oldest persons live in less developed regions and by 2050, 79% will do so. Until 2013, population aging had been considerably slower in less developed regions where fertility has been still relatively high. The proportion of children declined from 38% in 1950 to 28% in 2013, while the proportion of older persons increased from 6% to 9%. However, a period of more rapid population aging lies ahead for the less developed regions. By 2050, their proportion of older persons is projected to reach 19%, whereas their proportion of children is projected to decline to 22%. After 2050, population aging in less developed regions will continue but at a slower pace. In less developed regions, the proportions of working population are expected to decline slightly, passing from 62% in 2013 to 58% in 2050 and 55% in 2100. A rapid increase in persons aged 80 years or over is expected in less developed regions, from 63 million in 2013 to 26 million in 2050. Overall dependency ratio in 1950 was 79 dependents per 100 persons aged 15 to 59 and soared to 90 from 1950 to 1975. By 2005, the overall dependency ratio was 64 and is expected to decline until it reaches 61 in 2015. The table 5 shows how the percentage of population under 15 years of age has been changing for the less developed nations over the years. For the world, this percentage declined between 1950 to 2000. During the same period, the percentage also declined for the less developed nations from 37.8 to 32.5. However, for the least developed nations, this percentage showed a slight increase from 41.3 to 42.1 during the same period. An increasing percentage of population under 15 would mean that the younger dependents are increasing. Age structure for developed regions. The more developed regions experienced a stabilization of working age population share and a decline too after 1995, pointing towards the prevalence of aging population. Old age dependency ratio has been rising and is expected to continue to do so for the coming years. The more developed regions have reached the end of the process of decrease in the youth dependency burden and have a low level of youth dependency ratio. These countries will experience stagnation in number of working age people over the next decade. The major change anticipated for the more developed regions is a transfer of population from working ages to ages 65 and over. The old age dependency ratio will almost double, increasing from 22.6 persons aged 65 and over per 100 persons of working age in 2005 to an expected value of 44.4 in 2050. In Europe, the situation is even more extreme, as the ratio is expected to more than double, reaching 48 in 2050. The child dependency ratio will rise slightly from 25.1 to 26.8 in the more developed regions. In 1950, the median age of the more developed nations was only 29 years, but is projected to increase more than 45 years by 2050. Europe, which has already reached a median age of 39 years in 2005, is expected to increase to 47.1 years in 2050. At the intermediate level, Northern America and Oceania have followed similar patterns. In 2005, 11 countries were estimated to have a median age above 40 years, all of them belonging to the more developed regions. Over coming years, the situation in the less developed regions continues improving while the ratio for more developed region declines. But by 2025, both sets of countries are expected to have similar overall ratios. After 2025, this ratio for more developed region declines markedly, while that for the less developed regions remains almost unchanged. This points to the fact that less developed regions as a whole still have the opportunity to reap benefits of the demographic bonus and some time to adapt to rapid population aging that they will experience once the bonus ends. In more developed regions, overall dependency ratio increased slightly between 1950 and 1975 from 64 to 66 dependents per 100 persons aged 15 to 59 and then declined to 59 in 2005. Overall dependency ratio is expected to be 92 in 2050, which means that window of opportunity is essentially over for the more developed regions and that rapid aging lies ahead. The diagram 4 shows that the old age dependency ratio in Asia is expected to nearly triple from 10 seniors per 100 working age people in 2010 to 27 in 2050. This ratio should more than double in Americas, rising from 14 to 32. For Africa, the old age dependency is expected to remain relatively low in the future, reaching 9 in 2050. The diagram 5 shows that except Europe, decreases in child dependency ratios are expected in all regions. It can be clearly seen that in Europe, the number of children younger than 15 per 100 working age people is expected to decrease from 74 in 2010 to 52 in 2050. Implications of the changes in age composition. The growth or decline over time of specific age groups in a population helps to determine changes in a society's requirements for health and educational services, housing and consumer durables and other goods and services. An increase in the size of less than 5 populations implies an associated increase in need for additional classrooms, schools, etc. Similarly, stability in the size of the same under 5 population frees up resources for other healthcare needs or allows expansion in the coverage of programs targeting the under 5 age group. An increase in the proportion of elderly in the population or an aging world population implies greater elderly support bonus. An increase in the proportion of elderly population also implies that better health services need to be established to ensure that this section of population is not ignored. Conclusions. No matter how many challenges or opportunities it may present, a country's age structure is a snapshot in time, far from static. Population age structures can shift rapidly and sometimes dramatically in response to policies and programs, to epidemic diseases and to other natural and human-induced events. To achieve a world of more favorable and balanced age structures, a series of steps related to demographic change are needed. The governments should make voluntary access to modern contraceptive and reproductive health information as widespread as possible. Policies should also work to increase girls' educational attainment and make it easier for women to enter and compete in the workforce. Investments should be concentrated in healthcare, education and employment of young people. With this, we come to the end of today's lecture. In the next session, I shall talk about another related topic. Goodbye. Thank you very much.